Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I will be showing you how I sketch and paint a little gelato shop. I haven't been traveling much recently and I really miss that, so I have been revisiting these old photos to relive those travel moments, and I photographed this place myself a few years ago when I had the privilege of visiting Venice. So this is the reference photo, and I passed by this place at night, and I only have a picture of it at night, but it's really easy to find additional reference pictures on Google. And this shop is called Alaska. You can just Google that. I will be using this Winsor & Newton Skechers Pocket Box plus these 6 colors by Daniel Smith. It's actually the Watercolor Essentials set by Daniel Smith. So first up, I'm going to mix some colors first. And the first color is cerulean blue, actually cerulean blue hue mixed with French ultramarine. So we have a nice blue for the striped awning. So when we look at the reference photo, you may notice that the doors are wide open. So there will be quite a lot of emphasis on the interior of this shop. But I will be simplifying the interior a little bit. It's not going to be a complicated or really detailed sketch. I will try to make this really simple and try to simplify all the very complicated stuff. The next color I'm going to be mixing is for the plants, and I'm only mixing 2 colors, and then I'm going to start painting straight away. And this mixture is French ultramarine plus Hansa yellow light and new gamboge, and the 4th one is phthalo blue. So we have 4 different paints in one mix. I'm using 2 yellows and 2 blues, and I'm trying to get this dark green color for the plants. Color mixing is very interesting. You get to see the colors change on the palette, and sometimes they change very drastically once you add a different color, like adding this very strong phthalo blue turns this color into a really dark and strong green. And I find it really fun to experiment if you have the time. And on the topic of time, I personally have been struggling to find time for art and video making on YouTube these past few months, mainly because we have welcomed a new baby, and it is really tough trying to balance everything and to carve out any amount of time for myself to sketch something or to work on my videos, but I'll talk about that more later. Currently, I am applying clean water on the page, and I'm making sure that it's really moist, really wet, and I'm going to start with a little wet on wet for that first layer. So I tend to do this a lot when I want to sort of start with some shapes and colors, and just starting with those shapes and colors immediately can take the stress out of trying to get things perfect. As you can see, I'm using my preloaded brush to paint in those blue stripes for the awning. And I'm very roughly putting down these strokes, again, not trying to be perfect in any way. I have been using this sketchbook for quite a while now, and I think that the sizing of this paper has actually somewhat deteriorated. So you can see that the paint is a little blotchy and it's not spreading on the page the way that it should. It's really tough to work with as well. So this sketchbook actually has 300 GSM wood pulp paper or cellulose. It's a Chinese brand called Potentate, just for those of you asking, because I can't find the sketchbook on Amazon, so you can only find it in Shopee, I think. But usually the paper in this sketchbook is pretty good for a cheap sketchbook. And that's why I have been using it in many of my videos. If you have been here for a while, you probably already know it. So I noticed that the paper was not very good now, but I decided to just keep going and to just keep painting and to not start all over on a different piece of paper. And well, I keep saying that it doesn't need to be perfect, right? But in fact, I really didn't have the energy to start all over again. It's actually a miracle I didn't just abandon this one halfway. Right now, I'm using yellow ochre, and as I continued on with this first layer, honestly, I was thinking, well, this is pretty horrible, isn't it? So I did this particular sketch in the middle of the night. Yeah, as it is, because that was the only time I had where the house was quiet and I had some time to actually sketch something. And although I was tired, I just needed to sketch something. And the act of sketching actually brings me into a meditative state, which helps to heal me mentally from all the stress and anxiety of life these days. And besides, I thought, well, it can't get any worse. Might as well just keep going. At least well, I get some practice in. At this point, I started painting with burnt sienna and cadmium red pale hue, adding more bold strokes and more saturated paint, saturated color, and the page was already pretty dry at this point. And I was thinking, whatever. The important thing is to keep going and to finish this. If I give up now, I might not sketch for maybe a few weeks, a few more months. I probably would feel really discouraged if I just gave up on a piece, that it would affect my future pieces. So in my current state currently, I find it really hard to just find time and sit quietly with a clear and well-rested mind and to just work on a video or to sketch something. So this time sketching is really precious to me right now. It has always been a precious time, of a blessing to be able to sit down and just sketch. So I'm really grateful for that, especially now. And I hope that sharing these videos can actually help someone to appreciate that as well, and to help someone maybe try out sketching, and maybe that will help you as well as it has helped me. So yeah, that's why I'm trying to keep going and to keep producing videos, even though I am uh, really lacking on time and energy in this season of life. The first layer looks somewhat better with a few bolder strokes and colors, so now I'm using my micron pen to start ink sketching, and I'm starting with the roof as usual, and I'm making sure to use loose strokes, keeping in with the style, and I am quite used to this style of sketching, so there are some things that I do automatically, such as creating breaks in the lines, varying the line width. Sometimes I prefer to do the lines on the buildings not in parallel, so I like to do like it's very hard to describe it in words, but basically I am on autopilot here. I don't think much. I just look at the reference and I compare the reference with my sketch constantly, and I put down line after line. The first layer of watercolor is now acting as a rough guide for me. And the benefit of that is that I know where most things are. And I also remember to leave space for like the plants in front. And I can tweak things a little with my lines as well. Right now, I am sketching in the plants in front of the shop, as well as I already sketched in the big cone with the gelato in front. The photo is not as clear because it's very dark, right? But I did have a few other reference photos that I tried to reference as well. And the good thing about plants is that you really can be as loose as you like, but you need to have a little bit of order in the randomness. So you can't have all the leaves the same shape, but you still have to have some of that texture of the original plant incorporated into your sketch. So I have been thinking about doing shorter tutorials, maybe on just sketching plants. I think that will be slightly easier and shorter videos. So let me know if you are interested in that kind of video, which is maybe a 10-minute sketch of a little plant or a tree or, small objects. We are almost done with the big picture. That is, for buildings, I always start with sketching the bigger structures. Then after that, I go in and do the details and the interior. As for the interior of this shop, in the reference photo, we see a lot of details, like a lot of things, which makes it look intimidating. But actually, I find that details are easy. It just takes a longer time to complete the sketch if you want to include all the details in. But what is harder is actually sketching something really simple, which doesn't have a lot of detail, and yet still be able to make that sketch interesting at the same time. So, what I find even harder is trying to capture the overall atmosphere of a place and to find a pleasing composition as well. So I think that is enough detail for now, and I'm just adding some texture, some dots and lines here and there. The great thing about ink and watercolor is you have a lot of control with your pen. So you can add more details later. You can tweak things such as maybe adjusting the slant of the roof. And on the other hand, watercolor is much harder to control, but provides more opportunities for looseness and spontaneity. Like now you can see how the color sort of goes out of the lines and it looks sort of loose. And well, so as I get older, I feel like I am becoming looser and looser with my sketches, and I'm not sure if it's a good or a bad thing. I guess it's not either, but I suppose it is somehow a reflection of how I am more aware of how limited my free time is compared to when I was younger. So I used to spend hours or days on just one piece, and I think right now I can't do that kind of art, for right now. But yeah, it sort of reflects the kind of style that comes out in my art, in my sketches. Alright, so now I'm painting the second layer of watercolor, sometimes even a third layer, and I'm using the same paints as before. So when using watercolor, it just feels natural to me at this point to not fill in all the blanks. And these little spaces which I paint around throughout the sketch, it looks appealing to my eyes because it seems like there's light. I think it creates space in the painting as well, and it's a very different way of painting compared to maybe gouache or acrylic, maybe digital illustration as well. So I used to do digital for a period of time, and it was just like one click with a paint tool and it perfectly fills in all the blanks, and you have this perfect wash of color in one tone. And there is an appeal to that, and I find a lot of illustrations, modern illustrations tend to go towards that, like very clean and bold colors. But yeah, it's a very different approach compared to this way of painting. Right here, I am using the two reds from the Daniel Smith set, which are Pyrrole Scarlet and Quinacridone Rose. And before this, I used the red in the other set, the other Winsor & Newton set. And besides the counter and the drinks dispenser being red, I also added a touch of red to the plants out front and on the top. So this adds a little bit of color, a little bit of red to the other areas, which I find helps to make this more interesting. So this is a habit that I actually picked up from watching Marco Bucci's YouTube channel, and I really love his videos. So thank you, Marco, for teaching me about color, color theory, and color. Just harmony is just a huge topic, and I am, learning, and there are still a lot of things I need to learn. So watching other people is a really, really good way to learn about color, because when you paint by yourself and you don't look at other people's work, you just get, at some point you get a little bit stuck, at least for me, and you don't progress if you don't look at other people's stuff. And when you study other people that you admire, you start to learn different tricks. So right here I am mixing ultramarine with burnt sienna, and I'm going to be adding in the shadows. So this is the final step, and it is a little tricky since the reference does not have daytime shadows. So don't be mad if you think that I'm being too liberal with the shadows. I will consider doing the nighttime version in the future if I'm using better paper and have more time on my hands to paint all those dark shadows. I welcome anyone who does a lot of nighttime sketches of places to let us know down in the comments how you do it and if you like doing it. But I don't see many people doing nighttime versions of sketches of places, and I think it's really easier and faster to do the daytime version. But well, for this particular sketch, I actually wasn't decided on which version I would want to do. But by the time I was at the stage, I definitely didn't have the energy to work on adding so much dark shadows around that shop. And so generally, I just added shadows where I thought there could be during the daytime. So yeah, I welcome any constructive criticism. So if you have any suggestions for videos or you have any comments on my videos, feel free to write them down. I do read them. I do read the comments, and I try to adjust my videos according to the comments if I can, and I try to add content that you request in previous videos to my future videos. But I can't reply to everyone because there are a lot of comments, and I really appreciate them, but I can't reply to every single person. And but then I do read them, and I do try to adjust my content based on your suggestions. So thank you very much. During the daytime, the inside of a shop is usually the darkest area. Therefore, I added more shadows inside of the shop. And I also imagined sunlight coming from the top right. So we have more shadows on the lower left areas. And I will be adding more shadows for the plants and the ice cream cone. So we are almost finished with this piece, and I think that it turned out a little bit better than I was hoping for. So I'm really glad that I actually finished this, considering how I started and my own doubts. There are a lot of obstacles I find as an adult for sketching and for doing art. So if you are in the right environment, in the right frame of mind, with enough time and energy to do something like sketching and reading, creating anything, and doing what you want to do, I think you are truly blessed. I hope this video was helpful to you, and if you did find it helpful, do remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.